Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with another one. It is Brian, that's Arnold here, and this is the Authority Project. And I have my new good friend here, Phil Preston, who is here. He says to help us amplify the difference you make in business and in life. Is that right, Phil?
That's right. And we're going to look at an angle that we might not usually look at today to help supplement the difference we can make. So I'm looking forward to chatting about it.
Great. Well, we shall see. We shall see on this amazing episode. Now, the Authority Project.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, feast your eyes and tune your ears. It's that time again. We are live with another episode of The Authority Project. It's the video podcast streamed on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope, where we talk to digital marketers, business coaches, and creators of all kinds on how they've built authority in their field and how you can mimic their success. Developing authority, building your audience, and attracting better clients to your own business. Now, without further ado, let's bring to the virtual stage your host, Brian S. Arnold.
And we are back with another one, folks. It is Brian S. Arnold here on the virtual stage. This is the Authority Project. You are the project. You want to slap authority to your name so you can sell more of what you're great at. And I am in the virtual stage here with Phil Preston. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really good. Thanks, Brian. Yeah.
Great. It's been a long time coming. Now I finally remembered what I wanted to tell you. What we were talking earlier. I knew what was going to happen. But we are here. We'll get to that later. But first of all, let's start right now by telling the audience at large who you are, Preston, Phil Preston. Who are you personally and then professionally?
Oh, who am I personally? Okay, well, I was a professional corporate guy for many years, and then I left that in 2007 to do my own thing and run my own business. And look, I love it. I'm invested in it. We'll talk more about that, I guess, as we go through. But what I really love outside of my work is I love coffee, I love chocolate, and I like getting out and trail running and actually having the joy of running through the hills where I live near, which is just south of Sydney in Australia. So there's lots of big hills, and I get out there with a group of crazy people, and we just run.
Wow, that's amazing. That sounds great. All right. And so here's the question I always ask all the guests in the beginning. Do you have a daily routine?
Look, I have, and I recently changed it up a bit. So it's an interesting question. So my daily routine is really the first hour of my day. Now, I normally get up around 5 a.m. That's not for everyone, but I find that first hour is a great time to plan out the day ahead. So, and you know, when you're running your own business, you've got to think about administering the business, managing the business, delivering to clients what you've got, and then working on the business. So I find every day is a bit of a challenge to figure out what do you focus on. So that first hour is about getting the focus.
Awesome. So let's dive in. Let's dive in now with this subject here. And this is a kind of a unique kind of subject, amplifying the difference you make in business and life. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean by that is sometimes we think about making a difference as being the things we do outside of work in our personal life, and that is part of it. For other people who are working for companies, they might have options in the company to make a difference and go and do stuff there. And that might look like giving or volunteering. Their companies might be doing responsible business practices, which are great and making a difference. But there's also another level that we often don't think about, and it's to do with what the business you're working in or for does every day. And there are methods you can use to have a far greater impact by combining some of that into what you're doing. Now, for every individual person, they might already be doing, you might be doing great stuff outside of your work and business life, and that's fine. That might be what works for you. But I find a lot of people today are so invested in their work, and they're 24/7 that there are some strategies they can use that actually improve their business performance and also amplify their impact as well. And so that's what we're going to talk a little bit about as we go through today, I think.
Okay. Yes. So let's dive into how we do that. What are the steps? Do you have a blueprint for us? What do you want to share?
Yeah, so let me just give you a little bit of backstory, because there's a tie-in with, I guess, an American operator here eventually. But I grew up in a place called Hobart in Tasmania. Now, Tasmania is a very small island state in Australia. And I don't know if you've got an equivalent there, Brian, but when people think of backward states or people playing banjos and being a little bit,
Yeah.
a bit like that, I don't know what your equivalent is, but Tasmania had that reputation. But the reason I was born there was partly because one of my great grandfathers worked for the Cadbury Company, which is a chocolate company based in England, and they came out and set up a factory in Tasmania. But when you look into the backstory of the Cadbury chocolate works in England, I'll cut a long story short. Essentially, the owners of that business in the late 1800s had this idea that they'd really go out of their way to look after their workers. And they built cottages for their workers. They let them out at really affordable rates. And at the time, this was like luxury. But they didn't just do it because it was a nice thing to do. What they did was they made a link between their workers being happy and healthy and the productivity and innovation those workers would bring to the job every day.
Yeah.
So it's this transformation when you can say, okay, well, it's a good thing to do, but it's also going to drive the performance of my business. You know, putting profit with purpose together actually has a huge impact, because he ended up building 370 cottages.
Wow.
Which, as you imagine, like, is a huge investment. Now, if you were just doing a normal sort of giving program from your business, I don't think you'd be investing that much. So the fact that he could see the whole business was benefiting in a profitability sense meant he made a bigger investment. So that's part of the secret to leveraging our impact. And the connection here is apparently Milton Hershey, who would be very well known, I think, over your way. He visited this factory and this estate and saw what was going on, and that became part of his blueprint for what he did in, I think it was Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So it was. Now, to get a profit with purpose, you don't have to do housing for your workers. It can come in all shapes and sizes, and that's what my business is based on, helping people understand what those other options are.
So this is great, because this is what I've been struggling with this phrase for a long time, and let me know if this is what you're going with. Like, the phrase is where they say it's just business, it's not personal, right? And so I think it should be all entwined together. How can your business not be personal? I mean, if you don't have a business, then your personal life is going to the trash, you know? So can you explain more about why organizations and companies, and even if you're building your own business, how you should really look into the personal lives of the people that are in your organization?
Yeah, well, look, I personally think it's a bit of a no-brainer. If you want to improve the performance and competitiveness of your business, is to have your people really understanding what the purpose is of the business. And when I say the purpose of the business, it's not saying and the role they play in delivering that purpose. And purpose isn't, we might say my purpose is to make $1 million this year. Well, that's not the type of purpose I'm talking about. I'm talking about what's the benefit to society that you're delivering. And so if the business is really clear about what that benefit to society is, and the people, everyone working in or for it, understand how their role connects to delivering that benefit, then I think that's an amazing way of really galvanizing people to go above and beyond. You'll attract better people to your business. You'll retain them longer. And in books like, for example, Tribal Leadership is a book that was written about 10 years ago. And they did a study on the highest performing teams tended to be those where the team really understood the end purpose of their work. So it's not just an idea. There's some pretty solid evidence behind this.
Now, are you saying the same thing as like the other word, culture? Is that what you're meaning with that?
Yeah.
Because I see that there's some businesses out there who will start with a culture, but then it wanes when they start to scale and so forth. So how can you keep that culture or that purpose still alive in the people that are coming into your organization going forward? Because things change, and can you.
and how many people say, "Oh, we've got to fix our culture," and I'm like, where do you start with that? Where do you turn? It's so hard to do because it takes time. And I think being really clear on your purpose or North Star in the business is the ideal way to start that process if you do need to lift it up or maintain it, because everyone is connecting into the same reason for existence. So I can't see any better place to start to improve culture than that. And anything else, I think, is going to struggle if you don't have that main bit right. Let me give you a quick example. This is a company that makes hearing aids or bionic ears, and their company name is Cochlear. Okay. Now, their stated purpose as a business is to help people hear and be heard. So that's a really interesting statement because it doesn't say anything about making hearing aids, right? It talks about what the end benefit is of the company, helping people hear and be heard. And I just love that because that is a way you can almost say anything you do in a strategic sense or an operational sense. You know, are we actually aligned with our purpose? And if not, we shouldn't be doing it. And I think everyone would understand what that purpose is. And I don't know about you, but I feel great working for a company with that type of intent.
Yeah. So let me deal with this. Because I actually just put up a video on this today on LinkedIn, and it was on before. I did it before, and I just put it up here on LinkedIn, and it dealt with recent statistics, Phil. Mm-hmm. Going forward from maybe 2018 to 2021, and the problem now you see after COVID's kind of trying to wane itself off, with people not going back to their jobs. They just put up, the people are not satisfied with their jobs. They're looking for a better opportunity that actually works for them. That's not. I think a lot of people are seeing now that it's not just about the money, and they want to be in a place where it satisfies them, that it gives them, like you said, some more purpose for themselves. And what do you say to people organizations who are just like, just go back to work, just come back to work. You need to work. And not only the companies, but the governing, wherever you are, whatever you are in, because I get a lot of people from different, this is an international podcast. So, the governing bodies that be, just go back to work and be happy with that. What do you say about that as far as that mind turning now because of people seeing more to light with that?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a real trend and it's there for a reason. And look, the way we're doing business is changing. And when you think about sort of 50, 20, 10 years ago, we still felt like growth and resources were infinite. And while you can still grow your bottom line in various ways by being innovative, the amount of resources in the world, as we know, is finite, and we're starting to struggle with that. And what that means is, and I know this sounds like it's starting from a slightly abstract place, but what it means is in the past, I think some businesses have operated a little bit independently of society. So of their consumers and their sometimes their workers, and they've gotten away with that because that connection hasn't really mattered so much, and they've been very focused on profit. But now we're sort of hitting up against our planetary boundaries. It's a very crowded place. It's a very connected place, and if you don't look after the stakeholders to your business, meaning your workers, your customers, your suppliers, the communities in which you work, you can't sustain, I guess, falling out of favor with those groups because you won't be in business if you don't look after them to some extent. And I'm not saying you have to give money to them hand over fist or anything like that. It's just aware of what they're going through. And quite often they can be your best partners in driving change together. So there is a mindset shift. And so coming back to your question, I don't think companies can go on the old path. There was a nice, I guess, an example of this in the corporate world was when Unilever, which is, I guess, a large, consumer goods and food company, there was an attempt to take over from Kraft Heinz, a US company, and Kraft Heinz sort of hadn't really invested in its business and hadn't really realized there was a shift to better better eating, people looking for healthier products. And Kraft Heinz sort of missed that boat. It tried to take over Unilever, and Unilever had been on that path. It failed, but then a couple of years later, the performance of those two companies diverged a lot because Kraft Heinz hadn't really plugged into what people were really wanting, whereas Unilever had. So it's a great case study.
So let me ask you this point blank then. Do you see companies today that you experience, are they actually listing? Are they going to a different place where we really got to do something different? Are they actually, do you see a change in that, or do you see the same business as usual thing? And coming back to that?
I see a shift with an asterisk on it.
I like that.
The asterisk is, imagine you're the CEO of a company. You've got a really fine line to tread because you have investors who, some want long-term returns, some want short-term returns, and you've got to tread that tightrope. So it's really difficult. And I take my hat off to the operators who can bring all investor groups along well. Because, the reality is I think most CEOs would love to have a 10-year plan, a 15-year plan, and do this stuff really well. They've just got to sometimes navigate the market. And if you're running your own private company, I guess you can do what you like and take that longer-term view without, consequence from an investor group. So I would say, yes, there's a handful of companies who are really getting this. So it is happening, but we're just not good at recognizing it and replicating it across a wider range of businesses.
So let me ask you this, dive more into this, because I think some companies can do this, but I think others in different positions cannot do this. Well, when I see people in retail, let me see, restaurants with their low margins.
Yeah.
There are ways. Do you think there are still ways in these particular industries that they can still be able to get into this point of culture that people will bring back this workplace or bring back a better workplace going forward?
Yeah. Well, look, I don't live over your way, but I monitor what Walmart is doing quite a lot because they've been on a little bit of a rediscovery journey and lifting minimum pay rates and so on. Now, I know no company is perfect, and one of the challenges we have is that we tend to try and classify companies as good or bad. But I think companies are like people. They're not. They do good things and they do bad things, but you can't just say they're one or the other. So a lot of companies are really making an effort to improve their practices. And I know, for example, Airbnb, I thought was an interesting case study during COVID in terms of what they did with their workers, and they could have just laid off and cut a whole lot of workers and said, see you later. Yeah. But they actually put in place so many supports, and they had various reasons for doing this, but they supported their hosts who were out of pocket. They let people cancel. They gave their people some really advanced levels of support in terms of outplacement and trying to help them get that next job and so on. I think gave them good benefits coverage. So they went above and beyond. And I think a lot more companies are thinking in that way because they know it's going to come back and bite them if they don't.
I'm glad you went there, because my next question would be, what do you see are the main things that workers are looking for when they want to look into a position, a career, or so forth? What are they looking for, and what do you think that would be the attractor to get them into the culture and so forth? What are we looking for? Are we looking to just be fed? Do we want benefits? Do we want snacks and those kind of things? What do we want? What do you think people are looking for?
Well, I guess we all have our hierarchy of needs. So the first thing we want is food, clothing, and shelter. And, so clearly that's number one priority, and not everyone gets that. But if once you do achieve that level, you're looking for something, according to Maslow's hierarchy, you want belonging, you want meaning, you want greater purpose in your life. And I think you've asked a really tricky question because I don't know all the answers to it. And I'm going to be interviewing some people who specialize in the millennial generation fairly soon because I want to get a better handle on that. What we currently sort of see as the narrative is people looking for a job, the best and brightest, evaluate companies in terms of the difference they make. But then the question is, well, are they evaluating, the volunteering programs and the trees they plant, or are they really evaluating the true purpose of the company and what it does in its core business every day? And so I'm really interested to find out more about that. And if we fast forward to people probably more in my age bracket who've been working for some time, and then they suddenly, and I had this experience in my corporate life when I turned about age 39, I sort of stepped back and said, look, I almost feel like I'm on the verge of success here, personally and in my business. And at that point, I had this existential crisis and said, is this my life's work? Is this what I want to be known for? And
Right.
at that point, everything just went out the window, and I threw in my solid pay packet for I guess working the gig economy since then. So, you do need to really drill down and find something that resonates with you. And in some of the programs I run, we go through a checklist. What's really motivating you in your life, and there's at least 11 categories we look at that are different motivators for people finding purpose. So, yeah, there's many ways to go about it, and hopefully in a couple of months' time, I could come back and answer your question better.
Awesome. So I got two more questions, and we'll wrap this up.
Yeah.
So when you went through this experience of going from your corporate job to now being more of a an advocate, I would say. I'm not sure how you would define it, but
strategist, purpose strategist.
There you go. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about. What is your whole deal with purpose? Because sometimes it might seem cliche, like, oh, purpose, find your purpose. But you believe that this is the difference that separates one company from the rest, right? Or one life from the other, about really defining what that is. Why is that? Yeah,
well, purpose is, I think, again, it's coming back to that original idea around culture. It's almost like the no-brainer. Like, if your business has a purpose that is, it's not making cars. Making cars is an activity that you could say a car maker could have a purpose of, we want to deliver sustainable transport solutions. Now, that is more talking about a benefit to society when we start going into that language. Now, I think that's really important for every business for two reasons. One is it's an offensive and a defensive play. One is, if you understand your benefit to society, you're not going to go out of business soon if you're delivering that benefit. If it's something people genuinely need, you're going to be in business for a long time. And secondly, it gives you a great platform for innovation, because once you think about that bigger purpose you're playing, so like I mentioned, the bionic ear provider, to help people hear and be heard, that purpose doesn't limit them to just making devices. They could go into a range of services and other areas that actually complement that purpose. And I've got several examples we don't have time to go through now, of companies that have discovered new lines of business that really resonate with them and perform well because they fit in with that overall purpose.
Yeah. Wonderful. So I only have one last question. This has been great, man. Great stuff. One last question I ask of all of my guests. It goes something like this. There are people out there now who are watching now, they'll be listening later, and they want to know, how, what Phil is doing, what Phil is doing. Maybe I want to do something like that. When I want to do something, what he's doing with helping, people find their purpose in their business and their life. Can you tell them in your own words, and I'll put you front and center, how they can become an authority in this space?
I think there's no easy journey here. You're going to have ups and downs, but if you've got an idea that you truly believe in, and I remember when I came across this, it was in about 2008, I came across this idea of businesses having strong purpose and that driving performance. I just knew when I found out that was my thing, and that would be my thing pretty much forever. And, my path from 2008 to now has had its ups and had its downs, but I've had that core belief and stuck at it. I think, part of the reason I got through that journey was having people around me who could act as peers and sort of just help bounce things off. You can have coaches, you can do as many courses as you want, but I found having peers around you who were sort of on a similar journey and facing similar issues to you, was a huge part of that. But yeah, I don't know if I've got more to say than that, Brian.
Yeah, we got it. No, that's fantastic.
And writing a book
Fantastic.
helps. So writing a book, because that helps actually crystallize your ideas in a
Yeah.
more accountable way. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, writing a book is that's great. I'm in the midst of doing another one. I've missed of doing my new one pretty soon. Just gotta get some time to do it. That's always the big thing, right? Good time.
It'll happen.
Yeah. So please tell people right now, Phil, where they can learn more about you and what you do after the show.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Brian. So I think on the screen there, you might see I've got two websites. One is philpreston.com.au, and that's about my business as a practitioner and speaking business. And I've also just created a business called businesspurposeproject.com. So that's more catering to what companies and corporates need, and have a wonderful partnership with a lady based in Miami Beach over there in the event production space. And we're bringing out of that project, we're doing some corporate conversations extending into some of the other topics we touched on today. So that's great.
And your book, and say anything about your book, man.
Oh, there we go. Well,
here
we go. I've got it there. Connecting Profit with Purpose, and it has examples of companies of all different shapes and sizes and how they actually do this and connect their profitability with their purpose. So it works for pretty much any audience, as well as for not-for-profits and charities, because it gives them new ideas into how they approach companies in a slightly different and more strategic way.
Great stuff. Great. This has been awesome. I appreciate it. I know it took a while to get here, but I'm glad you finally got on here. Honored to have you on here. And let's do it again. So we can go a little further with this whole thing. So everybody, that's it for right now. As I always say, remember, build it, share it, and they will come. We'll see you next time. We're out of here.
Thanks, Brian.
And that's a wrap for this episode of The Authority Project. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if you like what you heard, we want to hear from you. Subscribe, rate, and give an honest review. Share and tell your friends so they can hear too. And for even more authority building tactics, be sure to sign up at theauthorityletter.com. Get free weekly content and ongoing digital product giveaways to help you on your entrepreneurial journey. We certainly hope you got a key takeaway, or maybe an aha moment from today's broadcast. Just remember, it's your authority. Build it, share it, and they will come. Until next time.